السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد. So I'm going to hand it over, inshallah, to our youth group members, inshallah, who will be taking over and conducting the session, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you, Yusuf.
Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. My name is Yusuf. I'm a second year student at Ryerson University. And this is my second year with the Islamic Center of Ashra Youth Group. So I just want to start off by welcoming everyone back. We kind of had an extended summer break due to the current circumstances. But inshallah, moving forward, everything will, bi'ithnillah, stabilize, and the Islamic Center of Ashra Youth Group will run its normal events. So just a little bit of background information about the Islamic Center of Ashra Youth Group and what it does. It's a group run by youth which focuses on conducting and hosting events which are specifically tailored for the youth that live in the Ashra and Whitby area. And these events, they are constructed and they're formulated and thought up by the youth that go to the various different high schools and universities within the Ashra and Whitby area. And the events, they focus on a variety of different topics, ranging from some Islamic topics such as marriage or jinns or the like, and others, they're more of just to build a bond between the Muslim brothers and sisters so that there is a safe space that people can come to and socialize and kind of build a sense of community between the youth in the Durham region. So some of our previous events were, like last year, we did a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, and we have a yearly camping event. And also we ran a few other events that focused on jinns, marriage, and other things like that. Today's event will be regarding how students can stay spiritually engaged during the school year. The title is The Life of a Muslim Student. And it will be conducted by members of the youth group. And the members, they range from students that are just entering high school, students that have been in high school for a year or two, and students that are in university. So we can get different perspectives and takes on the topic at hand. And the students and the members, they came up with tips that they personally experienced that they felt helped them stay spiritually engaged, and they will be sharing these tips in the presentation. And inshallah, after this event, there will be a bunch of other events that the Islamic Center of Ashra Youth Group plans to hold. The information of these events will be posted on the Islamic Center of Ashra Youth Group social media pages, and also the Masjid WhatsApp group. And the social media handles are at ICOYG for Instagram, and you can also find the ICOYG on Snapchat and Facebook. So everyone is requested to follow the youth group on those various different platforms so that they can receive the information regarding the events as soon as it's posted. So now I'll be handing it over to the youth group presentators, and the first presenter will be Brother Umar Karimi, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry, let me just switch slides. Perfect. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so is Yusuf to add on to what he said. Our whole thing is to kind of present some tips and some information on how to on how to like stay spiritually engaged during the school year. It's because it's a topic that, you know, it's spoken about here and there, but there has been too many presentations and too many events that I've noticed personally that kind of tells you how to be specifically for students, how to be spiritually engaged during the school year. So we thought it was very important. And also, we're not doing this because we think that we've like reached some level of iman and now we're in a position to teach others. Rather, we think that like everybody that's watching this, everybody has different experiences, and based on their different experiences, they have different things to share. So with our experience as the youth group, we think that we can share some tips that could definitely help other people if people are willing to listen. And not that you guys don't, but when we come together as a group, we think that's really beneficial. So yeah, inshallah. So that's just to add on Hafiz Yusuf. And I guess I'll just start with my tip at the beginning. So my whole thing was, if you guys could see, it's to have a purpose. And what I mean by that is you should be going to every class, lecture, or if you're in high school, every day you should be going to school, and you should know your overall purpose of why you're going. So the beauty of this is that like you're not going to be wasting your time in general, and you're definitely not going to be wasting it with haram activities. Because if you have an overall goal, like for example, I said over here, right, that like if you say, for example, I'm going to go into computer science with such a goal, then anything that kind of attacks and takes from that goal is you're not going to do it. And you're going to kind of kick it out of your life. And it's even better, for example, I mentioned here, when your goal is halal and when your goal is based in Islam, then it's almost impossible for you to waste your time in haram. Because, for example, what I said over here is that like if you're getting a degree in computer science, for example, you could have the intention, oh, I'm just getting it to have fun in university and like get a decent job after, which is okay, one thing. And then if you say, no, I'm gonna get a job in computer science so I could get a halal income for me and my family. And also, so for example, I can go and develop masjid websites, or I could develop websites for Islamic events that go on in the community, right? Because we really need that as a community. So if that's your overall intention, and every year and every day you go in, it's like, okay, these are my goals. Anything that kind of distracts me from my goals, I'm not going to get involved in that. If you could have that for yourself, it's going to really allow you to go forward. And what you realize is in some classes for people in university, they might realize that the people who are older, they generally do better. Because there's some people who may have taken a year off or something like that. And it's not necessarily because those people are just naturally more engaged or they're just older. A lot of the times those people just have a purpose of why they're doing it. And they don't really get involved in all the side stuff, like all the nonsense that goes around in university, right? So those people have a goals and that's why they do better. But if you could have a goal, there's no reason why you can't. If you could have a proper Islamic based goal, and just really kind of ground yourself in that, it's going to be good. But if you guys are like, no, I don't really have a Islamically oriented goal, then at least ensure that you do have a goal going in, and that goal is going to be productive and halal at the same time, right? So yeah, basically my whole thing is to have a purpose of going every day, every class, every lecture. You should be, okay, I'm gonna learn this so I could do good on this test, so then I could get a good job, and then build your goal. But don't go places without purpose, and make sure your purpose is halal. And yeah, so that's my tip, I guess. And then the next one, I'm gonna let Miriam present. So here we go.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Mariam, and I'm going into my first year at the University of Waterloo. And at my high school, I helped establish a Jummah Salah for the other Muslim students to attend. One tip that I would give would be to set goals for yourself. During the school year, it can sometimes be difficult to stay spiritually motivated because it feels like there's a shortage of time that is available for you to do the things that keep you motivated. That's why it's important to have goals for yourself. By setting realistic and achievable goals, you'll be able to keep yourself motivated and productive throughout the school year. For example, a goal could be anything like reading or memorizing the Quran, and you could have that goal, you could have it like time aside daily, weekly, or even monthly to doing it. Whenever I've done this for myself, I've always found it helpful to remind myself to set realistic goals for me, myself personally. Everyone is at a different level with their spirituality, and the only way to improve your own is by accepting where you're at the moment so you know where to start to make real progress. I think this is really important to remember, especially if you're trying something that isn't really familiar to you. Next, Hafiz Danya will be speaking.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Daniel Afzal. I'm 17 years old and I just finished high school. Next year, inshallah, I will be going to McMaster University. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Daniel, it's good.
Okay, Shaka, thank you. Just one thing that Yusuf, I think Hafiz Yusuf forgot is that if anyone has any questions for the Q&A session, they can send it in on the Instagram, on our Instagram platform, or they can just text it into the Zoom chat. My tip for all of you is that you should all make or set a schedule for yourself. When do us as students waste the most time? When are we the most unproductive? When we don't have something to do. When you don't have something productive to do, then we get ourselves involved in activities, unproductive or even haram activities. I think most of us here can relate to having a free day and then not accomplishing anything on that day. So the way to combat this problem and remain steadfast on our religion while being busy with school is to make a schedule for ourselves. Everyone should make or have a schedule so that we can balance our religion, academics, and our personal lives. Also, I would like to say that if you make a schedule but have nothing to put on it, it becomes kind of useless. So I would like to encourage everyone to keep themselves busy in productive activities like volunteering at the masjid or taking part in school clubs. Jazakallah.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Mariam. I go to Anderson and I'm going to grade 12 this year. Also, I've been part of the youth group for 2 years now. So my tip for you guys is to get involved. So try to participate in events and gatherings in the Muslim community. For example, volunteering at the masjid or attending masjid events. These types of activities will allow you to feel inspired, as surrounding yourself with other Muslims makes you feel motivated in terms of your deen. It may seem as though getting involved is a difficult task and may affect your studies negatively, but from personal experience, I think it's the opposite. If you take volunteering at the masjid as an example, not only do you obtain volunteer hours from it, but you also get to surround yourself with some amazing mentors who will inspire you in terms of your spirituality. Also, just from spending time in the house of Allah, you will feel more spiritually connected to your Creator. Attending these types of events and gatherings will give you a sense of belonging within the Muslim community and will allow you to develop a love for your deen, which is why I believe they're important in terms of staying spiritually engaged. So the brother talking after me is Brother Ayad.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ayad Patel and I go to O'Neill CVI and I'm going to grade 11 this year. I've recently just joined the ICOYG youth group. So my tip for you today is that students should participate in school activities and events and clubs. Students should participate in school activities and clubs to help them find other Muslim students with similar interests and hobbies. By joining these clubs and events, Muslim students become motivated by seeing other Muslim students who are firm in their deen or find it difficult as well to stay firm on the deen. They can help each other and strengthen their iman, which is beneficial to both themselves and other Muslim students around them. For example, some events and clubs that students can join are MSA, student council, sport teams, and art clubs. Students can join these clubs even if they are not as popular as other clubs in their school or like other schools that are near them. Participation in these clubs can result in other Muslim students to be interested into joining these clubs as well as they see other Muslim students in it. That's my tip for you guys. And
Okay. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the event. Don't worry, there's still more. Don't go anywhere. We still have a Q&A session, but no, thank you very much. We hope you definitely benefited all of us. We spent some time preparing this, Inshallah, hopefully you can forgive our shortcomings for this event. We hope you definitely found benefit in it. We definitely found benefit in it, inshallah. Yeah, so we really appreciate it. Just you guys showing up really helps us because, you know, it keeps this group going. And the fact that this group's going, it doesn't necessarily just help you and us. It also helps, you know, people in the future who can hear that there is a youth, a place for youth, Muslim youth. And again, you just showing up really, really help support that cause. So we're very appreciative of you being present today. So yeah, that definitely did not go unnoticed on our part. Our next event, we haven't planned the date or the exact event that we are going to do. We do plan to do one in the next coming month, inshallah. So please be and it's not gonna inshallah, it's not gonna be like a Zoom event or something like that. It's gonna be like an event that we're gonna be physically present at, inshallah. We obviously don't know anything for sure. So please be stay tuned for that. We hope to see all of you guys there, and inshallah bring your friends. It should be a fun time, inshallah. If you guys been to our other events, it's been a good time. So inshallah, we look forward to seeing you then. And until then, you shouldn't think that there's nowhere for you to turn, for you to seek. You know, if you ever need that spiritual boost, that iman boost, don't think that there's nowhere to turn or something like that. The masjid is open. You know, there's youth at the masjid. There's youth all over. We would be more than happy if you ever wanted to contact the ICOYG. That's not a problem for us. Just to get in touch with us. Don't think that, you know, it's just you left alone out there, because sometimes it's really easy for people during the school year, especially when there's not too many Muslims around them, to really like seriously like feel alone, because you're on a whole different, you're doing your own thing, right, in terms of your Islam, and it seems like everybody else is doing something else. But don't feel that way, because you know there's a whole group of young people going to school that are more than happy to, you know, support you and be with you. So yeah, guys, don't ever think that you're alone. You know, the masjid is always there. The masjid is open. So yeah, guys, don't think that, you know, you have to wait until the next event to engage with Muslim youth. You know, we're always there. The Muslim youth are always going to be there. It's just a matter of you just reaching out to them. Yeah, and with all that said, thank you very much for listening and coming. But Imam Shakir at this point will now be hosting a quick Q&A session. So I think Hafiz Daniel said that, oh, okay, someone has raised their hand. Perfect. Okay, we'll get to that person, inshallah. 1 second. Okay, we'll get to that person, inshallah. Yeah, so yeah, like that brother just did, you could just raise your hand, or I think you could put questions on the Instagram, and then Hafiz Daniel will, inshallah, bring it to the attention of Maulana Shakir. So, okay, I think there's somebody who had a question. Okay. Bismillah. Okay, I'll hand it over to Maulana Shakir now, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakallah khairan to all our presenters and all of the attendees. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from everybody. Really interesting tips and tricks that would be hopefully beneficial for each and every one of us. So let's get to the question Q&A, because that's what I'm here for, inshallah. So yes, if you have a question, you're welcome to type it up in the chat as well. And you're welcome to raise your hand. So I'll let Hafiz Daniel monitor that, and he can let me know, or unmute whoever wants to ask their question, inshallah. Those listening on the YouTube can also, I guess, put their questions up on the YouTube if they wish to. So do we have a question, inshallah?
I have a quick question. I could start it off, Maulana, if no, or is there someone else?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, we could, I guess, this first question over here. So is this a monthly thing? Yes, inshallah. It will be a monthly thing. We'll try our best, inshallah. Okay, so I guess I'll start. Like I was waiting for a question. I guess Maulana, I'll ask you a question. So a lot of us wonder, you know, how much Quran to recite, because it's a little hard for some people. It's a little hard to, you know, recite a juz or maybe 2 or 3 juz as some people recommend a day. So if there was someone who were to ask you, like, I have 20 minutes to, you know, engage myself with the Quran, what should he or she recite? Should they focus on memorizing? Should they focus on a specific surah? Should they focus on how should they go about doing this, Maulana?
Jazakallah khair, an interesting question, inshallah. You know, when it comes to, I guess, first of all, I think we might want to ensure that just for the betterment and the inclusion of everybody, you know, everybody is going to have, I think one of the presenters mentioned that everybody's going to have different levels of spirituality. So if you have some spare time, and you can schedule some time for Quran in that spare time, that would be really helpful. And if you can't, that's not where you feel kind of you want to do at this moment, then that doesn't mean that that there's something wrong with you in any way. You could try to figure out how to best use your time, right? And that would be just for the individual who might not be able to relate to the question, in the case that they're not looking at possibly using that time to recite the Quran. But if a person is wanting to recite the Quran in some spare time that they have, then whatever attracts you to the Quran the most, right? Is the first place that you want to start from. Some people really enjoy reciting by themselves. Some people feel really motivated when they memorize an ayah. Some people find it challenging to feel motivated to recite or to memorize, and they might just find it easier to listen. So to start off, you should start off with whatever motivates you, right? And you shouldn't be, you shouldn't feel that motivation or that which motivates you is problematic. Whatever motivates you would be the best to start off with. And being consistent is the biggest issue when it comes to this and any action, right? Just being consistent. If you're going to set 5 minutes aside, 10 minutes aside, 20 minutes aside, then you just want to be consistent with that. And so once you're consistent with it, you can always build off of it. And if there's no consistency, then you'll do it one day, and then you might not find it. You might not do it another 2-3 days, and then find another day, and then it will be a bit more challenging for you to try and to develop with whatever you initially felt motivated by. So again, if you feel motivated by listening to the Quran, listen to it, right? Get into the habit of listening to the Quran. This is also a practice of the Prophet ﷺ. If you feel motivated by reciting the Quran, then recite the Quran. If you feel motivated by reciting a specific portion of the Quran, then recite that. Some people might feel it easy to recite the short surahs because that's just something that they find easy. They've heard of it, they've heard them, and so just stick to that initially. Some people might find it, like the challenge of, okay, I'm going to try to start from the beginning and try to get to the end. Do that. And some people might feel like, you know what, I really want to memorize. I've memorized 10 surahs from the time that I was young. I want to memorize another surah. We'll start on that, right? And so hopefully just trying to connect yourself with that which motivates you would be helpful for you, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. Is there another question? Hafiz Daniel? What age is namaz fard on someone? So namaz is another word for salah, right? Salah is the more common word, but namaz is also a word that's used for it. So salah is necessary for a person to start reciting when they reach the age of 7, right? From the age of 7, the Prophet ﷺ told us that a child should be introduced to salah, and by the age of 10 years old, they should already be performing their salah properly. And if a person is not performing salah by the age of 7, then they could try to assist themselves. Now, I think the issue of the discussion of salah, which is very interesting that the sister brought it up, put the question forward, is a very key point that should be kind of given some attention to. So hopefully I can just try to just mention a few points in regards to that. Salah is the base of the faith. So everybody's going to, like was mentioned, everybody's going to have different levels of spirituality. But what we want to do is identify with some of those things that are like key points, right? Key points that could really be something that they define as Islam. And so salah is one of those points, right? Salah is something that a person should understand is a foundational element of the faith. So yeah, if somebody's not praying all of their salah, or somebody's not praying salah at all, it doesn't mean that they're not Muslim. They are, right? But really, there should be a desire, or it should be a kind of understanding and awareness that I should be trying to perform my salah as much as possible. right? And so when you're in your schools, right, in your school year, with time changes, salahs are gonna fluctuate, right? You're gonna get from having dhuhr prayer, being such that you could perform it after your school day, to it being such that you're gonna have to perform dhuhr and asr during your school time, right? Yeah, obviously we're not sure if people are gonna end up physically back at school or not, or how many people are gonna end up, or what the schedule is going to be like for that. But one of the things you might want to try to keep in mind and try to work on for yourself is to ensure you're trying to pray your salah, right? Trying to perform your salah. And even if that means making up for it. Now, ideally, you want to perform each prayer at its time. But if a person is not able to, for whatever their reason might be, then they might want to ensure that they make up for their prayer, right? And salah doesn't take long, right? It's a 5-minute, it takes 5 minutes. Some people might feel comfortable praying at school. Some people might not feel comfortable praying at school. But what a Muslim wants to understand for themselves is that salah is very, very crucial and important, right? And, I need to ensure or try to ensure that I am, trying to pray my prayers to the best of my ability, inshallah. Right? So just try to keep to that. Okay. So there's some other questions here. Let's try to get to them, inshallah. I'm going to try to. All right. What is the best way to combat the waswasa of shaitan? So again, when we use terms, sometimes I'll have to try to explain a term before I answer the question, just so that it's relatable to everybody. A waswasa is an intrusive thought, right? So many Muslims have heard of shaitan, and shaitan is an actual physical creation of Allah, and Allah has made him as a test, and it's not just one individual. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created shayateen, and so they are tests for the human being, right? And one of the jobs of the shaitan, because good cannot be truly understood if a person is not able to compare it to evil or bad, right? So how do you know something is good? Well, when you know something is bad, right? So you can differentiate between good and bad. So if there was no bad, then there would be nothing would be, or everything could be good. But Allah has tried to make it clear for us that some things are going to be, bad, so that a person is, trying to stay away from them and understands them to be bad, so they try to avoid them. So shaitan, one of his jobs is to try and put thoughts into a person's mind so that they get influenced towards something which is not appropriate or right. And so this thought that shaitan will try to plant in a person, try to whisper, it's called the whisper of the shaitan. This is known as a waswasa. And so the best way to combat a waswasa is to pray a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, right? People might undermine this, this statement that they, or dua, it's really a supplication. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim means, oh Allah, I seek protection in you from shaitan the accursed, right? So that's one of the best ways. Another way is to recite Surah Al-Falaq, Surah Al-Nas, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. These are ways. And also, those are maybe some, things that a person can recite from the Quran that could help them, but also just to try and filter their thoughts, right? Try to filter their thoughts. As human beings, we are able to understand a good and basic evil. So if a person recognizes that there's a thought coming to their mind which is not good, right? Which is obviously evil, but they're being affected by it, then they should try to filter that thought. If they can't filter that thought, if a thought becomes overwhelming, and this is a challenge, could be a challenge at times, right? For example, a person is just in a state of depression, or a person is in a state of constant anxiety, then they should seek help, right? There is, mashallah, psychological help that can benefit people. So they should seek help. They shouldn't try to leave it to themselves. So these are, but filtering their thoughts, seeing that, well, this is not a good thought. I should try to combat it, try to deal with it. If they can't deal with it, then seek somebody's assistance. question that is come up alongside with that is, how can someone go about creating a prayer room? So I'm assuming that's based on a prayer room at school, right? So keep in mind that it's the right of religious freedom is the right of every individual. And when our masjid was meeting with the Durham District School Board, then they had assured us that every person is entitled to their faith practices, and they would be very accommodating to try and assist a person in getting their prayer space. So the most appropriate way would be for somebody to generally, if you have an MSA at school, then the MSA would probably be a good avenue to use to speak to the principal and try to set up a meeting and try to get the principal to help them with a space. If there is no MSA, then maybe individuals can get together, a few of them, and try to go to the. If there's not enough individuals, a person can go individually and seek that, and they should definitely provide some space for you. Sorry, what time does this end? Well, it's supposed to end very shortly. All right. If I have an exam where I can't pray the salah before or after, can I combine salah such as Dhuhr and Asr? Right. The issue of combining between prayers is a little bit more of an intricate issue. It's called fiqh. Fiqh means a deeper understanding of something. If a person is in a situation where it's very confusing as to what's the right thing to do, then sometimes those type of answers or questions require you to meet with a scholar and discuss them individually, because blanket answers are not easy. They might make sense to some, they might not make sense to some. There are different opinions with regards to combining of prayers and not combining them. So I really would express tell somebody in that sort of situation, if they know beforehand, that they should probably meet with a scholar, your local masjid imam, and ask them. This is one way of interacting with your local masjid imam. You shouldn't feel afraid of, and alhamdulillah, I think that's why you guys are here, that you can ask these type of questions. But nevertheless, if a person is going to, for the questioner themselves, maybe this answer is going to be more relevant to the questioner than everybody else, but to answer the question, if it's going to be such that they're going to completely miss the prayer, and it's a prayer that can be combined with another prayer within the rules that are allowed, then they should. And if it's not, then they would not be allowed to, regardless of what the situation is. What should I do about Jumu'ah prayer when the time changes in November? I'm saying this because my class ends at 3, and at that time, the last prayer will be around 2:30. What should I do? On a regular, weekly basis, you should actually make an effort to go to your local masjid and perform your salah there. If you have enough Muslim kids at school, and you can establish your own prayer, then you should actually establish your own prayer. I know many MSAs have Jumu'ahs that take place at their schools, or many high schools have Jumu'ah salah that takes place at their school. So if ideally the most appropriate place to pray a Jumu'ah salah is in the masjid. So that would be more ideal. But if that is not, if that is challenging, if due to COVID it is cancelled, it's cancelled, the salah at school, then you should try to go to your local masjid. If you can't, if you're under 13, you will not be allowed to go to the masjid, right? So for Jumu'ah, right? So there would be challenges. I mean, in that situation, you would not be responsible for praying anyway. And if a person's in that situation where they can't pray their Jumu'ah salah for whatever reason, then they should perform their Dhuhr prayer. But yes, as much as possible, they should try to go to local masjid. If not, establish a Jumu'ah at your own school. Another question here. If you must do a project or presentation that contradicts the rulings or beliefs of our religion, what can we do? For instance, a project in an anthropology class that explains evolution is worth 30% of final marks, so you can't avoid it. If it's something that, again, there could be things that are, explainable within the faith that don't really contradict the faith. So, evolution as would be a challenging one in a sense. And if a person was very, was very uncertain about how to, combine between their faith and their project, then they should speak with their teacher directly and express, because the teacher is responsible to try and accommodate. And so, you shouldn't be shy to do that. There's nothing wrong with going privately to your teacher and saying, look, this is a situation. What can I do about it? They should be able to assist you in saying, and helping you with, how you can try to deal with a personal situation. And if a person does say something that they don't really believe in, that doesn't take them out of the fold of the faith. So if they quote, if they quote something from a textbook, or they quote things that they don't really believe in, that will not mean that they actually are stating that, right? So if I quote Charles Darwin, right, that doesn't mean that I believe in what Charles Darwin said, right? And so there's ways to try and get around it if it's to that point, that it's necessary to that degree, that a person has to say something or mention something or finish a project. But again, my suggestion would be that making the teacher aware that there's individuals who are uncomfortable with certain ideas would help the teacher to be able to help to bring about projects appropriate for the class. So if you don't approach the teacher, then the teacher naturally is just going to feel like, well, this is fine. But when somebody approaches the teacher, and the teacher has a responsibility to accommodate, then the teacher would in the future be aware, oh, there's a student, there's these 3 students or this student or 5 students that will find this challenging, and they will try to ensure that they don't do something of that nature. In that regard, I remember an incident when I was an imam in a masjid at Scarborough. There was a young man who approached me, and he was given an English project, and there was a book that the class had to read, and the book actually was very blasphemous, very against Islam, in the sense that it was talking about a false prophet that would come up, and it was a novel, but the storyline contained this type of information, and the young man brought it to my attention, and I mentioned to him that he should go and speak with his teacher, and if the teacher is challenged, is a little challenging to deal with, then you could speak to the principal. And they did that, and my understanding, if I recollect correctly, that they managed to get that book out of the curriculum, right? So that could help others coming afterwards as well. So this is just some thoughts in relation to that, inshallah.
Sorry, I was going to ask a question that I think is relevant to everybody.
Sure. Yep. If we're, yeah, go ahead. I don't think there's any
other. Sure. Yeah. I guess this would be the last question if there's nothing else. But Maulana, like a lot of us are, we go to school and we go to other places as well. And sometimes we catch ourselves like doing what we shouldn't do, or seeing what we shouldn't see, or saying what we shouldn't say, or listening to what we shouldn't listen to, and stuff like that. And sometimes, like, because like the day goes by and we do something that we know is haram, for example, we kind of like go through the rest of our day like really discouraged, really demotivated, and I guess it weighs it weighs on us a lot, and that really discourages you to like pray more or like engage in Islam even more because of the wrong you did earlier that day, or because you're like, like I'm so bad, I why did I do this, and then that really weighs on a person to the point where it's hard for them to even engage themselves or to really, I guess, go fully participate in Islamic things. So like what's your advice, like when we do something wrong, because it's inevitably gonna happen in such an environment, right? What's your advice to kind of shake that off our shoulders and like allow us to, because like at the end of the day, like you doing something haram should ideally make you want to like go put twice the effort in, but sometimes you put less of an effort in. So what's your advice to like help us shake that off our shoulders?
All right, Jazakallah khairan for the question. Mashallah, I think the question is an interesting one. I just like to, because generally when we have, an event that's catering to every type of person, some people might, understand the word halal. Some people might not understand the word halal exactly. Some people might not understand the word haram. Some people might not even understand the words, spirituality, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's, if a person's trying to learn, or and that's why you're probably here. You want to benefit, right? You want to learn something, right? Or it's like Brother Omar said, in his outro, that Jazakallah khairan for participating. So I just like to point out that don't feel, when it comes from question, Q&As, one of the challenges with Q&As is that a questioner will pose their question that is most relevant to them, even when it's, and I know Brother Umar, mashallah, is trying to pose a question that's relevant to everybody and might be relevant to a larger group of people. But if somebody feels marginalized or doesn't feel like that question applies to them, they should not feel like there's something wrong with them, right? I think Brother Umar mentioned that, in his outro as well, that, it's inclusive, right? Everybody's included in here. Maybe they learn, some people, might not be sure, what do you mean by haram, right? And haram literally means prohibited acts. And so if you don't know all the prohibited acts, you don't know everything that is prohibited, it's not necessary. It's not like you have to know them right away, but you can make the intention to try and learn them. And when you learn them, it becomes easier to try and practice them. And if you're not practicing something that's being said, again, every person is in need of trying to better themselves. We're all trying to, even myself, right? We're all in need of trying to better ourselves. So don't feel, if something seems a little, irrelevant to you, that there's something wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with you, right? It's everybody tries to learn. But for a person who might know something is prohibited within the faith, and then they engage in that, whatever that happens to be, right? Then their conscience will bother them, right? It'll bother their consciousness that, I did something which I knew I wasn't supposed to do. Like, let's take something that could maybe relate to anybody, using very vulgar speech, right? I think, using, very foul language, right? It's prohibited within the faith, because the faith is about good character, right? Good character is a very important element of the faith. So now a person swore, right? They said a word that they know they shouldn't have said, and it bothers them that, why did I say that word? Then one of the things that that a person can do is just to try and make an intention that they're not going to do that again. The fact that a person might regret something. And I'd like to point this out, that scholars have mentioned that if a person doesn't know a major sin or a sin, and they commit that, without knowledge of it, because they've just never been educated about it, then inshallah they'll be absolved of it. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold them to task for it, because they just were never exposed to the degree, that much faith that actually made it clear for them that this was the case. It doesn't mean that they are absolved from finding out. They have to make an effort to try and find out. And if they're making that effort, just like coming onto these type of sessions, then inshallah they'll be absolved. So now if a person does do something like that, then the regret is a very great element of repentance. So that regret should not be undermined. Secondly, they should make that intention that they're not going to do it again. Now, you know what's fascinating about this discussion is that the scholars themselves of the faith have posed the point, and it comes within the hadith actually, that a person might do that same sin again, even though they said they weren't going to do it again. So as long as they were intending not to do it again and then they did it, Allah is willing to forgive them. Meaning if they were genuine that I won't do it, but then they did it because it happened, then Allah is willing to forgive. So it's just a matter of being genuine with Allah, right? Just trying to be genuine with Allah, and Allah is willing to forgive. And another very great thing, and might not apply to everybody, but those that, if you have a mother, right, serving your mother. There's a great companion, the cousin brother of the Prophet. His name was Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. He was asked by a person who said that I've committed a major sin. And in the questioner's mind, it was something that was very major, but it was still something that was prohibited and wasn't right. But the Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu told him that, do you have a mother? He said, yeah. He said, go and serve her, because I know of no deed greater than serving your mother, which brings down the mercy of Allah, right? So that's a basis. That's something that you could use. Besides that, there's a more formal method of doing tawbah, repentance, which is to pray 2 rak'ah salah raise your hands in front of Allah, make an intention not to do that action again, and to regret doing it. Make an effort to stay away from all of those things that would lead up to that action, and then asking Allah, Allah, please forgive me. And inshallah, that will be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But as far as the regret itself, if a person, regrets doing something wrong, that's actually is a good sign, right? So it's something that person should try to value. Obviously, you just can't get rid of the regret. If you did something that you felt like you shouldn't have done, there's a good chance that that regret's just going to bother you. And maybe using these avenues, like doing that repentance, going and serving one's parents, not one's mother, because a person, there's specific narrations about serving one's mother, but serving one's parents, taking out some sadaqah, giving some charity, right? Countering that evil deed with a good deed, right? So a person said a bad word, then they go out of their way to try and say a good word to somebody, right? Consciously to think that, okay, I said this word, I shouldn't have, and like that with other actions. That might help them just to be aware consciously that, okay, I did this, and so in response to that, I'm going to do this, and hopefully Allah will have mercy on me, and that will affect them in their thinking. So these are a few things, inshallah. I know that we're quite a bit over time. I mean, well, we didn't really have a time frame itself, but I think one of the questions that maybe somebody might have that again, people might feel shy asking like basic things, and you know what, you should never be shy to ask basic things. We find in a narration of the Prophet, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where the angel Jibreel, Gabriel, comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the form of a human, and he asks him basic things. What is Islam? What is Iman? Right? What are the signs of the Day of Judgment? And he asks him these basic things because, and he was an angel, and he came to teach the people that it shouldn't be, just because you're called a Muslim, or you've gone through a maktab program, or you are learning the faith through, you've listened to so many lectures, that you can't ask basic questions. You can, right? That was why one of the reasons that he was actually sent by Allah to go and come in front of a gathering of people and ask these basic questions. So a question that somebody might have that I think is important to try and address is, what is spirituality? Like, okay, I might go to school, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's talking about being spiritually engaged. Sometimes, what happens in our communities as Muslims is that selected things become the way something is identified. So now maybe after this, these discussions, somebody might think that, oh, reciting Quran is spirituality. If I don't recite Quran, I'm not spiritual. Oh, praying salah is spirituality. If I don't pray, that's all spirituality means. Or yeah, just reciting Quran and praying salah is spirituality, right? So what is spirituality, right? Do you need masks for these conferences? No, you don't. You're online, so I guess if you're in a place where a mask is required, then you're going to need a mask. But what is spirituality, right? So spirituality comes from the word spirit, right? And spirit is, who you are, right? It's the internal self, the inside of yourself, right? And a way to kind of understand is that, it's your heart, and it's the connection or the manifestation, what becomes apparent from what's inside of you, your inner thoughts, in your outer self, right? So if a Muslim believes that Allah is the one creator, which is what our fundamental belief is, then that would come upon a person's in a person's actions, and that would be a sense of spirituality. And one way of showing that spirituality is performing the prayer, performing the salah. One way of showing that spirituality is, there's some, I'm just going to mute everybody so that, there we go. Right, so that's one way of that spirituality. But spirituality is not just that. Spirituality is that, again, that internal self coming out in your external self, right? That's why it's called spirit. Spirit in Arabic is ruh. Ruh is, so a human being in Islam is made up of two elements, the outer body and the soul. And the soul coming into the body, soul is the ruh, the spirit. The soul coming into the body is life for that person, and the soul being removed is death. And so spiritually being engaged, well, that ruh is a creation of God, creation of Allah. And so to be as genuine and clear about trying to be connecting that spirit with Allah is spiritual, right? So, and it's again, not just reciting Quran, not just performing Salah, your character, right? One great area of spirituality is controlling of one's anger, right? Controlling of one's anger is part of that. Controlling one's speech is part of that. So if a person, and there's a lot of basic things that are part of being human that are very spiritual. Like I talked about not using vulgar language, not using inappropriate language, right? Well, speech, right? And that's one area that shaitan tries to influence people, right? To try and create disunity, to try and create, chaos, to try and make, so if a person is, using their tongue inappropriately, well, that's not being spiritual, right? Because they're not connecting that spirit in the way that they should towards Allah, because the spirit and the body are connected together, right? So like maybe, we're connected right now over the internet, and if you have, a disconnect from you and your spirituality or from your spirit, a person is disconnected from their spirit, there's no connection, right? And there is a wireless connection, right? The spirit is not wired. There is, I guess, connect, but a very strong connection between yourself and your spirit. So, no Wi-Fi, no connection, like that, right? So just keep that in mind. Spirituality is not just, certain acts of faith that maybe people see as, representations of Islam, like, like I said, just reciting Quran. That's definitely a spiritual act if it's done for the sake of Allah. If a person is, connecting that internally. Similarly, praying salah, doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, you want to be aware of spirituality, so that when you say being spiritually engaged, it doesn't mean that you're just spending your time throughout the day in your school reciting Quran, or you're just spending your day, with a tasbih, musabbiha in your hand. That's not what you mean by being spiritually engaged. It means to be aware of your, what should be your internal state, and trying to make that clear on your external state. Whether that's in your speech, whether that's in your sight, whether that's in your hearing, whether that's in your thinking, right? Whether it's in your beliefs, whether it's in your interactions, right? Whether it's in your, in your alone moments, in your me time, right? Whatever your state might be, in every state you want to be aware of your, how your internal and external can be one and connected to Allah. So that hopefully does that. Hopefully that answers that, inshallah. I think we're at the end of that. I don't think there's any other questions, unless perhaps Danielle has something on from Instagram. And so, yes, Danielle, do we have anything else? No, I guess not. Okay, so we will conclude our session over here. To conclude our session, we'll just make a short supplication, dua. And dua is one amazing way to engage with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, you can make dua in your own language, right? You can communicate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way you want to, right? If you're stressed out about an exam, if you're stressed out about going to school, right? I know some of the kids are stressed out about, they don't want to go to school. They want to remain at home. And some kids are stressed out because they don't want to go to they want to go to school, and they can't go to school. That might be the case. And again, using the word stress that might be a strong word, but okay. But regardless, dua, just raising your hands and speaking to Allah, right? And if you know some of the du'as that the Prophet ﷺ himself made, that's amazing. But if you don't, you can just raise your hand and just communicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, converse with Allah, and trying to do it with a lot of attention would be best for you. So that's what we're going to end off with. So I'll just ask everybody if they, wherever they're sitting, they just raise their hands, and we'll end off with a short dua. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم لك الحمد كما أنت أهله فصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد ما أنت أهله وافعل بنا ما أنت أهله فإنك أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة. Allah, all that which was presented, all that which was said, Allah, accept it from each and every one of us, all of those who participated, all of our listeners. Allah, all that which we learned and studied and discussed, Allah, make it a means of benefit for us. Allah, help us to be spiritually alive and spiritually aware. Allah, make us amongst those whose hearts and minds and bodies are connected with you, Allah, that whose internal and external selves are used or are in connection with you, Allah, they are connected to you, Allah. Allah, that whose hearts and minds, Allah, whose hearts, Allah, are connected with you, Allah. Allah, beautify us with good character, Allah. Allah, let us help us to understand that good character is spirituality, Allah. That good character is going to be the weightiest thing in our scale of good deeds on the Day of Judgment, Allah. And alongside with purifying our character, Allah, help us to remain engaged with you, Allah, in different forms, Allah, in different ways, Allah. Allah, those means that the Prophet ﷺ has taught us, like reciting the Quran and performing salah. Allah, those things that are the foundation of our faith, Allah, help us to be particular with them. Allah, especially our prayers, especially our salah. Allah, help us to be good people. Allah, make us good Muslims. Allah, make us good humans. Allah, and accept the ICOYG, the Islamic Center of Oshawa Youth Group, and all of the youth groups, wherever they are operating, wherever our masjid youth groups are operating, and wherever Muslim youth are, Allah, protect them, and wherever young people are in difficulties and situations that are challenging for them, Allah, help them out from that. Allah, wherever humanity is suffering, Allah, remove that suffering from humanity, Allah. Wherever your creation is suffering, not just humans, Allah, any creation of yours that might be in difficulty and whatever that is suffering, Allah. Allah, have mercy upon each and every one of us, Allah, all the inhabitants of the earth, Allah. Allah, grant us a blessed, pious death, Allah. Allah, make us amongst those that will be raised with the Prophet ﷺ on the Day of Judgment and entered into Jannah in his company. Allah, all that which we ask for, grant us it through your mercy. That which we should have asked for and didn't ask for, Allah, grant us it through your mercy. That which we desire in our hearts, so Allah, if it's good for us, grant it to us. If it's not, replace it with that which is beneficial for us. Allah, the school year is about to begin, Allah. Allah, make it easy on all of the students, Allah. Allah, make it easy on all of the students, Allah. Allah, help them through their studies, Allah. Those that are in universities, Allah, whose studies are more intense, Allah, have mercy upon them. Make it easy for them, Allah. Allah, make the school environments, Allah, the environments within the schools, Allah, Allah, make them easy for the students, Allah. Make it easy, help our Muslim students, Allah. Allah, help all of us to be protected in our deen and our iman, Allah, not be influenced by evil, Allah, and the evil that surrounds us, Allah. Those students that are in high schools, Allah, or even in elementary schools that might be present, Allah, have mercy upon them. Make it easy for them, Allah. Allah, especially our high school students, Allah, that are in their last years, Allah, make it easy for them, Allah. Allah, and accept all of the students in their studies, Allah, and make them a means of khair for the entire ummah, Allah. Allah, accept our du'as through your mercy. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد واله وصحبه اجمعين برحمتك. Okay, stop here inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.